Hey guys, what's up? I want to go over the market today and compare it to 2021 and 2017 because there's a lot of talking like, could this time be different? And honestly, I don't think so, but let's just go really back in time to see if it is so far. So what I did, I was looking at the coin market cap historical prices of 2021 and also of 2017 to see the coins that were, in the top 10, really booming back then, and see like, okay, what did they do at a certain point in the market, at kind of the stage of the market where we might be right now as well, to find out like, hey, is this time different, or is it just a long boring ass market, but is it actually very normal? So let's get into that. Welcome to Blockchain Decoded. Soon Blockchain Decoded, you will find it, and then you will see a lot of interesting stuff that we came up with. The platform is gonna rock. I promise you that I try my best to give you the most advanced crypto platform while making it very simple, that just basically tells you, hey, buy now, right? Based on all the legendary metrics and indicators, or sell now, but also what to buy, what to sell. How is that coin looking against that coin? Like, this is going to be game changing, in my opinion. So thanks for watching. Let's get into it. At the moment, $14,000 for Bitcoin. Fine, right? Small correction at the moment. Bitcoin, nothing too concerning. It's a 9% correction so far from the top. Like, yeah, that's the least we can expect during a bull market, of course. So when I look at Bitcoin, I'm not a fan of patterns like, oh, it's having a Siamese head and shoulder kind of attack, whatever. I don't know how these things like work out. I'm not really a fan of that. All I know is Bitcoin is sitting at $114,000, just came out of a 9% correction. Is the correction still going on? It could be, but the current correction is nothing concerning. Now, if I look at the Fibonacci retracement, then yeah, is there a possibility for Bitcoin to go at least back to 110, maybe 1.8? There's a possibility. That would be a strong level. But we are now also sitting at the 382. So I must say that as long as Bitcoin is holding around 114, maybe slightly lower, 13.5, right? That's fine, right? That's fine, and there's nothing too concerning about Bitcoin. Ethereum also holding up pretty well. I mean, also had a small correction of 15%. At the moment, it's just sitting at 8%. So nothing weird over there. If we look at others, the altcoin market without, basically everything excluding the top 10, of course, went down a little harder, right? Lower cap, lower liquidity, went down 20%. So far it's down 14, 15%. Also, nothing that I see at the moment is screaming like, wow, this is bad, right? And I know that, the market is a little in fear of a recession once again, like it has been for the last 4 years. That will blow over. My theory actually is that, probably by the end of this year, beginning next year, we go into a bear market, and not just because that's seasonal. There will be a reason, right? And the reason might be that the long-feared recession will finally strike by then. So that could be the case. For now, there's nothing concerning about what I'm looking at the moment. Ethereum, Bitcoin, it's just like really strong, still showing like, hey, the money flow in crypto is happening right now, right? Bitcoin was absorbing all the money that came into the market, like a lot of money that's still coming into the market, and now it's shifting into ETH. And it looks like, yeah, it's probably not over yet, right? People here said ETH is dead, ETH is dead, ETH is dead, and we heard so many times ETH is dead. Yeah, of course it isn't. Right? These are the moments where you really want to buy. So if you got your buys in right here, congratulations. That's fantastic, of course. Let me know in the comments, where do you think that ETH could go this cycle? I hear a lot like, okay, 6, 7K or like 15K and above, right? Like there's no real midway, like 8.5 or something like that. To be honest, I don't know. It depends on how much money is going to flow into the crypto market. The way I look at it is by looking at the Ethereum dominance, actually. And if you look at the dominance and, glass half empty approach would be that, yeah, depends where you take it from. I think that this is more realistic, actually. But the glass half empty approach is that it's in a downtrend, right? So that the next stop for the Ethereum dominance could be, somewhere around 19%, right? Let's round it up and say 20, right? Yeah, okay. 20% of the total crypto market is 360. That's 720 billion. Now, if you then consider that 720 billion, ETH is now sitting at a $440 billion market cap. That would be an 80% gain, give or take, for Ethereum on the dollar pair, right? If that's the case from this point, an 80% for Ethereum brings it to, around 80%, right? $6,500, right? But that's like if ETH just, the dominance doesn't do anything weird, right? Just like goes down a little bit over time and no new money flows into the market, then that would be a somewhat realistic price target. But then again, like the total crypto market, like who says that this is the top for the total market, right? Like, I don't know. So far, it got rejected off a big area right here. But it's kind of crunch time at a certain point, and will break to the upside or to the downside. Look, my thesis is, why could it break to the downside? Let's be realistic, is that this wedge is kind of coming to an end at the beginning of 2026, and the beginning of 2026, historically speaking, should be a bear market year, right? So could it be that it just bounces like this, and then by the end of this year, beginning next year, breaks down? Does it sound that weird to me? It doesn't sound that weird to me, actually. But that's based on one pattern. There are also many patterns that I feel like, yeah, this should go way higher. If you look at the fair value, for example, the total crypto market is sitting below the fair value. Still, the fair value by the end of the year is 5 trillion. And every bull market, it went at least 2x over the fair value. So now, not even getting there, I don't know. Doesn't make much sense, but yeah, for every time it has to be the first, of course. But then again, also based on the fib levels, also pointing out to 4.5 trillion or so. So, if it goes to, let's say, 5 trillion and ETH sits at 20% dominance, then 1 trillion, that's around a 2.5x from this point. So yeah, then it could be that Ethereum is under the 50%, and could go somewhere to around $9,000, right? Now, why does that matter? Because you might feel like, yeah, if 9K, that's just a 2.5x from this point. Nothing interesting. Of course, from this point, that's nothing interesting. It is like that if you would have bought that at the lows, then you would have made a 10x with the safest altcoin out there. So that's a pretty good deal. But apart from that, would have, could have, should have, doesn't matter. If Ethereum sits at, let's say, 9K, right? And the money from Ethereum at a certain point starts to flow into altcoins again, then that's kind of crazy, right? Because alts on the Ethereum pairs you see right here are kind of oscillating, right? They go to the upside, they go to the downside. There's not a real clear range right here. It's all wicks all over the place, but you see, give or take, a range, right? And now they are in a downtrend, and it's not that altcoins are going down. It's just that everything is kind of going up, but ETH is going up harder, right? Unless you are looking at the 5-minute time frame, then everything is probably going down. But I'm looking at weekly, monthly charts. So what could happen is kind of like the last cycle, actually, where alts start to give up against Ethereum, right? Go down against Ethereum, or here go down against Ethereum, even better. And that Ethereum is gaining a lot of liquidity, and that then altcoins outperform Ethereum while Ethereum is already sitting really high. And that's where the real altcoin blow up is going to happen, right? It's not what we are seeing right now. As you can see right here, altcoins, they were outperforming Ethereum for a long time, and now Ethereum just starts to play catch up, right? So this kind of just started. I would say let's give it some time, right? This has been happening for 4 months right now. Yeah, it could be over soon. Could go on for another 4 months. I don't know. The whole business cycle is a little right translated this time. And so far, it looks like crypto is following the whole business cycle more than its own seasonality. So it might be that the cycle goes a little bit more to the right. But, you know, my base case is end of the year should be kind of over. Right? And you might feel like, oh, we only have 4 months. Like, you can forget about alt season. Look, every alt season so far lasted 4 months. So even if it, you know, would start by the end of this month, it could still be completely the same. Right here, it started in January 2021, and it kind of finished in May 2021. Right? This alt season right here. Look, it was kind of in 2 steps, right? You had March 2017 until May 2017. These were like 2 months where it really had this, you know, huge candles. Then it stalled out for like the biggest part of the year. And then we had the second part in November 2017 until December. You could say January, right? So in total, also 4 months, give or take, right? So yeah, could it be that, you know, this time it will be give or take the same, or that it would be 5 months, 3 months, right? Something like that. Still in the cards, still in the cards. What I did look at though, is that if you look at alt season, right? When did it really start, right? And what happened to actual alts back then? Well, let's go to 2021 and take a bunch of altcoins that back then were really dominating, right? Bitcoin Cash. What is Bitcoin Cash? That's what you would have bought the last cycle, right? And only last cycle. If you want to buy Bitcoin Cash right now, then but Bitcoin Cash, right? Although I must say it's going very well, by the way, but I just don't. I'm just a hater. But if you overlay alt season, right? You see that alt season started here. This is the chart that we just looked at. Altcoins on their Bitcoin pair, because alt season is where alts outperform Bitcoin. Very simple, right? So when this really goes up, it's alt season. What happened with actual alts right there? Well, what you see is so far, it's nothing really different. This altcoin, for example, first got out of a bear market, right? Did very well. Went from $70 to $320, right? Did a 5x, give or take. While there was no alt season, right? What do we see right now? Somewhat the same, right? $90 to $550, right? While there is no alt season. How come? Because Bitcoin goes up, right? These altcoins don't do better than Bitcoin, so it would have been more wise to just be in Bitcoin this whole point, and also here, right? But because Bitcoin went up, yeah, alts just went a little bit with it. But at a certain point, that kind of changed, right? And that was the moment where Bitcoin started to, you know, stop dominating at least. And altcoins started to go up harder than BTC. And from that point, this coin went from $300 eventually to 1,600, right? Did another 5x, right? How did that work with other coins, right? Well, with BNB, same case, right? Already started to rip earlier, right? Where it went from like 30 cents all the way to, that's not correct, where it went from $4 to almost $40, right? But then, again, alt season came, and that's where BNB, look, kind of went more parabolic as well, right? You had these gains, all these gains, and then you had 1 month with like 5x, like whoa, and that got compounded with even more green months, insane. But that's where it went from $35 eventually to $680. That's the part of the cycle where altcoins did it on their own. What you see so far, though, is that alts kind of got half of their gains during BTC season and half of their gains during alt season. It's kind of, right? What you see right now as well is that a lot of alts like BNB went from 180, right, so far to 870 during BTC season, right? Kind of the same. So based on that, could we maybe expect once alt season happens, not really, you know, the crazy gains for these top coins, right? The top coins, maybe not, right? But maybe that's a good narrative why these top coins keep on outperforming, right? The ones that did a 5x so far just pull off another 5x so far from this point, right? Ethereum, same case, did very well. Alt season started and it just, bam, continued on its own, right? Now, if you look at 2017, we have a list right here, 2017 coins, how they did. Whenever alt season started, first, again, Ethereum did like kind of fantastic. And in the first leg of alt season, which was here, right? It went up from, you know, 12 bucks, right? Imagine 12 bucks to around 200 bucks, right? Then it stalled out for a long time. But BTC kept going, so it wasn't necessarily that alts went down, right? Alts on the Bitcoin pair, they went down. But Bitcoin did well, so alts kept on going up. And then when the second leg of alt season came, Ethereum had its, final run from, I don't even know where the wick was, from 280 bucks to 1400, right? XRP also, it just did what XRP does best. Absolutely nothing for a long time, right? And it got dragged up by Bitcoin. It went from 0.03 to like 10x above, right? While alts on the Bitcoin pair didn't do shit, right? And it went down again and boring. And then alt season started and XRP kind of completely exploded. Again, went sideways for half of the year, and then the second leg of alt season, and XRP went from like 17 cents to like 250, something like that. Now you can see that for all of these coins that the structure, is kind of the same. So if we now look at coins today, right, and this kind of harder to compare because these were the coins that I picked from CoinMarketCap Historical that were in the top 10 during the last alt season. So we already know that these were the winners. We don't know what the winners are going to be in this cycle yet, right? We can make our best guesses, but, we don't know until it happens. So I can take a look at a render or an Aave or whatever, but we don't know if these are the outperformers, the underperformers, right? We also had altcoins in 2017 and 2021 that did way more gains that I've just shown you, but they maybe went from rank 3,000 to rank 25, right? That gain was sick, but I just kind of picked the top 10 right there. But if we look at coins today, like Render, for example, you can kind of see like the same structure so far, right? Render went out of its bear market, went from 26 cents all the way to 13 bucks, like 13 fucking dollars. Like that gain was insane, right? While coins on their Bitcoin pair, the alt season chart, only went down, right? And therefore I feel like, man, I don't even feel but I'm like, damn, once this goes up, I'm not saying that this will do 100x from here, but that will give some strength to these coins, right? That will definitely cause some happy times finally in crypto where people are like positive again and rich and driving Lambos and whatever. And that goes for a lot of coins. Now, of course, there are also now really underperformers. But again, back in 2017, there were also coins that were like really underperforming at the start, but eventually did fantastic, right? If you look at a Zcash, for example, let me show you this right here, right? Or Steam, right? I've showed you this earlier. This is an amazing example, actually. If you look at this one, look at this chart. Terrible, right? You can't even, on a regular scale, you can't even fit the whole chart on your screen without seeing it being completely flat. While on this part right here, this wasn't flat, right? This was absolutely everything but flat. It went from 10 cents to 35 cents, back to half a cent, to like 30 cents. Like, it was crazy, right? But if you eventually zoom out and look what happened, then this whole area is flat. It's nothing, right? So, but what happens right here, coin came out, right? It did about a 30x, right? Kind of what we see in this bull market as well. We have seen a lot of coins, they came out, did a 20x, a 30x, a lot of examples, and then they died off. And in that dying off process, this market, people say, it's dead, it's over. It did this much and it went all the way down, right? Well, if it did these many gains in a market that was not an alt season yet, what do you think people will do right here? They will take their profits, right? Because everything else is terrible, right? So this gets sold off really hard eventually as well. This is the point where people have locked their money, and a lot of people from the outside yet to come into crypto. But this is where people, they locked a lot of money. And they see the chart finally stop going down, right? And that's where they be like, okay, maybe get in again. And all that liquidity in a coin that has no liquidity anymore, what happens to that? What do you think? Boom, right? Explodes. Because what's really like crazy, if you look at this chart, let me put it on a log scale. It looks a little less terrible, but it's, the outcome is not different. If you look what happened right here, after it made that 30x, it went down with 99%, right? 98.7%. Like, now if a coin goes down 30%, people already feel like, oh, no, you can't stand this. This fucking crypto market fucking scam, right? Like, dude, if you were here, you would have not survived that, right? 98.7%. Let me put in perspective once how big that is. Right? Let's take a look at an AVAX, right? AVAX. After the initial pump right here, right? It went down with 77%, right? All the way from $65 to like 15. Do you know how 98.7% would have looked like? That would have put AVAX at 80 cents. All the way from $65 to 80 cents. Well, it's clear that that didn't happen, right? But the last cycle kind of showed like, man, even if that happens, it still doesn't mean that it's dead, right? Because if you look what happened after that, what happened after it got wrecked like that? It went up 15,000%, right? Why did it go up so hard? Because it went down this hard in the first place, right? There was so much liquidity right here. And it got all drained. No liquidity left. Imagine, this is like you having 10K and you go to the trenches and you buy a shitcoin with a $1,500 market cap, like with $2,000 in liquidity or whatever, right? Even like, well, something like that. You can manipulate the shit. You can pump the crap out of that. Well, that's the whole market basically as well, but on a bigger scale, right? So, yeah, it went down really hard, and there was a really good reason for people to say that it was dead back then. While in reality, the price chart should not be the reason for you to think that it's dead. You should look like Is the market dead? Is there adoption? Is there any future in crypto? How is the macro looking? Do people have money? What's the outlook right there, right? Because if that eventually turns out to be good, people will go back to gamble, right? And it looked good, right? And then what happened? People looked at the cheapest crap they could buy and it pumped really hard, right? And this market, in all honesty, to me, it doesn't look that different. Do we, right? I get the argument. We have more coins right now. Yeah, it's not like, it is harder, right? It's harder, right? This was really like, you had a couple thousand coins. Still hard, like you don't buy a couple thousand, you buy maybe 10 or so. So still like, now we have way more, right? However, counter argument though is that it's not that much more. Because all the coins that are created that we see add up to the total number are also coins from Pump Fund that are rugged, right? So they don't really add up to the list, actually. Plus, yeah, it should not like be easy, right? You should try to figure out for yourself, like, hey, what's something that could actually go up? And yeah, that's what I hope to focus on the channel soon once the market turns around, and we can talk about more about, you know, the newer stuff and what's having a good potential to pump really hard. For now, it's too much gambling for me. I don't want to do that. But so far, again, this doesn't really look like it's that at all, right? We have just seen the confirmation, right? Like, yeah, the money still goes into the market. The total crypto market is going up. It's going parabolic. I'm not much about the narratives and the reasons and the fundamentals around it, right? Crypto goes up anyway and it goes down anyway. But if we do have to look at the fundamentals, then yeah, I mean, have you seen the level of adoption this cycle? Right? How the fuck can someone think that it's dead? Are you like, no, it's no, right? Of course not. But yeah, total market going up. And then you have to realize, like, hey, man, we still have tariffs. We still have war. We still have Trump. We still have crypto ban. We still have all this bad stuff, right? We still have no, we still have QT. We still have no rate cuts. And yet the market is pushing all-time highs. Like, a lot of things could also get a lot better. I'm not saying that it can't get worse, though. But if we were already in the middle of all the good news, right? If the rates were already really low, and we have quantitative easing and Trump and Putin were like doing strip poker together every Saturday night and etc., then I'll be like, yeah, okay, you know, what's there to come? But now I feel like, man, there's a lot of room to grow, actually. So that's for me kind of the narrative that I don't want to give it. But yeah, the market is going up. The money is flowing into Ethereum. That's what we see right here. Now, we also, when it comes to the altcoin market, see that there's a lot of potential in there because, again, Bitcoin, ETH, and stable dominance, right? So everything dominance except altcoins, where it is sitting, the range, like the range high. This is such an oscillator, right? If this goes down, that means money flowing into alts. Right? If we were already here, I would say, like, how much room is there left for alts, right? But we are at the top, dude. Like, that kind of shows, like, we are at the bottom. That the reverse is, like, here. This is altcoins against everything. We are at the bottom, right? Well, I don't want to push it like that because we can get lower and then people will get mad at me. But let me put it like this. We are sitting at the bottom range, right? And therefore I'm like, being bearish at the bottom range, is that what? No, of course, that's not wise, right? So eventually I'm like, man, if it goes to the top of the range, to the lows of the range, to the top of the range, to the low of the range, how weird is it to think that it will go to the top of the range? Like, that's the most logical thing for me to think, at least. So then I look like, okay, that's money from BTC, ETH stables, etc. How much money is there in BTC, ETH stables? Whoa, a lot. Like, I mean, BTC 114. Oh, I still have it reversed. This looks bad. 114. Ethereum 3,600, right? I'm like, okay, let that money flow a little bit into alts. That's kind of crazy. So, all in all, could things go lower? Yeah, sure. It's like what I never say that it can, right? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't really care, though, as well. Like, it's not really my my focus. But overall, is there a good chance that it eventually will go way higher than where we are right now? Yeah. Like, again, for the newcomers, I get, though, that it's very easy to, if we are sitting at, relative low prices, to say, like, well, it's not going to happen. Of course, it feels like that, right? But do you really think that you should trade your feelings, or should you counter trade them? Right? That's the biggest lesson that I learned during my crypto experience, right? If you have feelings and you can't get rid of them, then at least counter trade them, right? If you feel like, oh shit, maybe I should sell, buy, right? Feel like, wow, yeah, I should buy more, take profits. Literally, don't think any different than that. Just do that and you will do fine, right? You will do fantastic. That's really, literally what it is. I cannot give you any better non-financial advice than that. And also, again, alts on the Bitcoin pair. Look, altcoins on the dollar pair, right? Clear bull market. Alts on the Bitcoin pair, right? Down. So what do you think, though, that this chart is going to look like once this starts to go up again? And I don't, there's always a reason that people will say, well, it won't go up again. Ha! Okay. Like, maybe not, but what if, right? That's what we're in for. Why are you here, right? Like, what if you said right here, it won't go up again, right? What if somewhere here said, like, won't go up again? Like, come on, right? What if it goes up, right? What if things happen like they always happen before? Like, what if the impossible scenario, right? Are you ready? Are you ready? And my approach, honestly, I will talk a lot about, profit taking and all that shit later on a little bit more. But for now, personally, I'm not buying yet. I have a good mixture between cash and crypto, which I think is well for me at the moment. But if I would be buying, I would just literally look at coins that I feel like, okay, you know what? They look like they are sitting at a good. Let me show you. Let me show you this way. I did a little TAing for the Alpha Factory earlier as well, and I hope that would be a little helpful for you. With with Cardano, for example, I think that Cardano is like. Why am I talking about Cardano? It's all Dino coin, right? Yeah, exactly. That's why, right? Like when retail comes in, they go to Coinbase, Binance, be like, hey, I know ADA. That's it. Like last cycle did 100x. Well, it's not because of their great technology or whatever, right? You can forget about that. So when I look at Cardano, for example, I'm like, okay, entry point 1, this trend line, entry point 2, this horizontal, and entry point 3, this right here. And it feels negative to even talk about Cardano 40 cents, right? It's now 72. How can it go down that much? I thought you were bullish. Yeah, you know why I'm bullish? Because I see that, the big picture, it looks good, right? But what's the point if you buy here, right? Then maybe it goes to $3. Congrats, you made it 2x, right? But if you buy it somewhere here, right, and it goes to $3, then you're sitting at almost an 8x. And that's kind of what you want to do. Sometimes, again, the best trade is no trade. I did it with, still have it there? Oh, yeah, I showed this before. I did it with Wilder World, for example. These are my buys and sells for Wild, right? What I did was I bought a little too high and too early, whatever. But I waited. I didn't looked at the first 10% dip and was like, oh, let me buy again. No, I just wait, right? Like from 55 cents, it's now 38. That's a lot lower. maybe this is a good time to do another DCA, right? But here again, same price, more time-wise, but again at 33, right? And I waited a long time. I set out this whole crash. I waited for it to stabilize. 24, I was like, okay, let me get another buy-in, right? And that was in like September 2024. And I didn't do shit until December, right? That's where I started to sell. And this is where I started to sell, right? I never cared about the top. It went to $1 and I saw that at 73 cents. So bad. Bro, if you look at the average, I can't complain. I bought this whole area, this average, give or take. I sold here for an average, right? So I'm already in profit. The profit I used, I let this whole crash, I let it crash. I didn't look at it, fuck it, right? Let it go down, didn't do anything. And at a certain point, I was like, wow, now it's really low, right? Now let me get in. Now there's a lot of fear. Now there's a lot of FUD, right? And I bought it, 16 cents average. And I just started to sell 26, 37, 44. I missed this at 60, otherwise I would have sold the rest right there as well. But now I'm in a position where I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything. If it's gonna go up, cool, I still have some coins for free. If it's gonna go down, cool, I still have cash, like a lot of profit from this one that I can use to buy again. So I don't feel the need to do anything at a, at such a no man's land price, kind of, right? And that's how I'm approaching kind of everything right now. Most days I don't trade, I don't do shit, I don't do anything. I just study the market, I prepare, I make sure that my money is at the right places, I read, I build, I try to communicate with people, I learn. And really at the days of a big crash or a big pump, that's where I feel like, okay, now I'm gonna make the moves, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you today, guys. For now, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, let me know, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, and I'll see you in the next one.